Good afternoon. I'm Pat Living with the Department of Health and Social Services and moderator for the COVID-19 update for Tuesday, June 9th. We are joined today by the Minister of Education, Tracy Anne-McPhee, and the Yukon's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Brendan Hanley. We also have with us Mary Thiessen, our American Sign Language translator, and André Boursier from the French Language Services Directorate, who will translate questions from French-speaking journalists. Following our speakers, we will go to the phones for questions from reporters. We will call you by name, and you will each have one question plus one follow. Thank you. Minister McPhee?
Thank you, Pat. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. This has been a school year like no other. It has been a challenging time for everyone, students, teachers, parents, and families. Each and every one of you have been doing your best as we have adjusted to learning and working from home. The 2020 pandemic is now a part of your story. In the face of this challenge, I have seen students and parents and teachers and community members work together with kindness and patience and mutual support of one another. As this school year comes to an end, I want to thank you for all of your efforts to adjust and adapt to how we work and learn, and for following the health and safety measures to protect each other and our communities. I want to speak for a moment to our graduating students and your families and teachers and communities. Congratulations to each and every one of you for reaching this amazing achievement. This year may not have ended with the usual celebrations, but please don't let that dampen your pride or enthusiasm for this tremendous accomplishment. I'm so impressed and inspired by the ways that you have found to celebrate this important milestone. Students and families and school staff and graduation committees and Yukon First Nations and Yukon University have all found unique ways to pay tribute and to celebrate your graduates. You've shown beautiful community spirit as you honor your graduates. These celebrations set a positive example and bring such joy to all of us. They show that together we can adapt and overcome the obstacles that life sets before us and continue to cherish these most meaningful moments. Although we cannot gather for celebrations as we usually would at this time of year, we still want to acknowledge the achievement of graduates, and that's being done in communities across the territory. I want to remind Yukoners that tomorrow, June 10th, has been proclaimed Yukon Graduate Day. I encourage all Yukoners to celebrate graduating students and the efforts that communities have made to honor them safely. Please share photos and stories so we can all participate in some small way. Planning is well underway for the 2020-2021 school year. The Territory is working towards Phase 2 and anticipates moving to that phase on July the 1st. This is very positive news, and we look forward to August and the new school year. Education is an essential service, and the longer that students are away from in-person classes, the more impacts this has on the mental health and the wellness of our students and families. While we never want to wish away a Yukon summer, we know that students and families are thinking about the next school year. School next year will focus on protecting the health and safety of students and school staff and our communities. Planning for the 2020-21 school year is based on guidance from Yukon's Chief Medical Officer of Health. Based on that guidance, I want to be clear that we are planning for kindergarten to grade 12 students to return to face-to-face classes at the start of the 2020-21 school year. To ensure students can safely return to classes in school, we will be working with school principals and staff to plan their school's operations. We have the benefit of monitoring other jurisdictions across the country and across the world who have started to return students to classes in their schools. We are learning from their experience and adapting their school routines. The Chief Medical Officer of Health is developing further detailed health and safety guidelines for our K-12 school settings. each school in the Yukon will create an operational plan for their school to meet those guidelines. Each school's operational plan will be shared in August before the start of the school year to ensure that students and families know what to expect on the first day back to school. In some ways, it seems like there are many days until the start of the next school year, but we all know how fast time seems to be flying by. We know that our efforts to date are working to ensure that Yukon is safe and COVID-free. And while we are planning for students to return to classes in Yukon schools, we must also be prepared to respond to other scenarios if the situation changes. Our plan for the 2020-21 school year includes flexibility in case we need to reduce the number of students in schools if there is an increased risk of transmission or a second wave of the COVID-19 virus, and to supplement in-person classes with other learning opportunities if needed. Part of getting ready for school for next year is the school bus registration. I would like to remind all families to please register their student for the school bus by June 19th. Parents can fill out a registration form on yukon.ca/bus and follow the instructions for submitting your form to the Department of Education. And one last reminder, families are eligible for a one-time payment of $250 per student in K-12 registration. Applications are still available at the Sport Yukon website, and I encourage everyone to apply, if you haven't done so already, by June 19th of 2020. We know that there is both excitement and some concern about returning to school. Excitement for students and teachers to see their friends and colleagues and to learn together again. But in some cases, people may also be nervous about returning to school. We have produced a document for students and parents, one for teachers and staff, and one for our education partners that will be sent out to them today. The document is designed to answer questions and provide as much information as possible about how we will get back to face-to-face classes in the 2020-21 school year. This information will also be available publicly on yukon.ca under the COVID-19 Supports for Yukoners section of that website. We encourage those with questions to view these documents and to visit yukon.ca to learn more. We will continue to work together with kindness, patience, and mutual support of one another as we adapt and continue our transition towards a new normal. Thank you to everyone for your patience and for caring for all of our Yukon students. And congratulations again to the graduates of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister McPhee. Dr. Hanley?
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Minister McPhee. Good afternoon, bon après-midi. And first of all, I would like to add my congratulations to all the Yukon graduates this year. Today's announcement that schools in Yukon will welcome all students beginning August 2020 means another step towards our new normal, living with COVID-19. In addition to new teachers, as students move up a grade, new friends, new courses, what will certainly be new for everyone will be the precautions being taken to protect students, teachers, and other education staff from the spread of COVID-19. Schools are so much more than a learning. They're about reconnecting our students and parents and teachers to the shared educational environment and the social connections it offers us. Being back in school means the important in-person connection between student and teachers and support staff can be rekindled. It also means that parents will have a routine they can count on. Kids needing extra help or assistance will have a higher quality experience. And teachers will get to meet and get to know and support their students. This is why teachers become teachers, to become role models, leaders, and to shape and nurture youth and kids to become thriving, connected, and contributing adults. The social issues resulting from this pandemic will have longer-reaching impacts than the virus itself. This includes significant stress for our children, youth and families who are living through restrictions and social deprivations. School planning is another step in our pandemic journey. 2 months ago, we needed to make rapid and decisive actions to protect our citizens and our healthcare system from the risk of a COVID onslaught. Having had the time to put protective measures in place, all of our reopening measures now need to be examined from a perspective of overall health risk. How can we keep COVID risk at a reasonable enough level to allow us to expand our lives and push back our borders? How do we weigh the many health risks of restrictions against the risks from the virus itself? School planning is another example of that. We cannot pretend that what we don't see when kids are at home is not happening. Even while incurring a calculated risk of COVID introduction, we know that this small risk must be balanced with the harms of keeping kids out of school for too long. When schools close their doors, there can be significant negative educational, mental health, and socioeconomic impacts on students. These impacts will be more severe for those children already living in more challenging circumstances. School building closures can expose children to increased rates of domestic violence, social isolation, and boredom. Schools are safe places for children and youth, and they play a vital role in our communities. As Yukon moves through its opening phases, families will be dependent on schools as well as daycares to look after our children. And although the Department of Education has worked incredibly hard and effectively to make virtual learning options, along with teacher support, accessible, we know that interruptions in learning can have both short-term and long-term impacts on educational and professional outcomes. Students rely on teachers, counselors, support staff, and fellow students for formal and informal mental well-being and support. In short, in-school learning plays an important part in our children's physical and emotional well-being. As one of those components of life that define our seasonal activities, school return plans are another milestone in our efforts to continue living with COVID-19. Of course, things will be different, but with flexibility and patience, we will adapt, just as we have until now, to how things will need to be. Hand sanitizers and hand washing stations will play a key role in daily routines, as will physical distancing. There may be smaller classes, possibly changes in hours of school operation. Details will come with further planning together, and we will continue to take the steps to support good public health and protection of all. Many of you will have questions about COVID spread amongst children and whether there will be outbreaks and how teachers will be able to protect themselves. We will try to make sure that all questions are addressed and that children, teachers, support staff, and parents are all comfortable with the plans. Here are a few points that may be helpful to start with. Given our low rates of COVID in Yukon, we expect COVID infections in schools to be possible, but the risk will be generally low. Kids may get COVID just as kids can get influenza, pertussis, or other infections. What we do know so far, though, is the following. Kids with COVID in other parts of Canada have been most likely to acquire it at home. In contrast to other respiratory illnesses, children do not appear to drive the spread of COVID-19 in community settings or in schools. And children tend to get milder disease. Looking at Canada's epidemiology, children have played a minor role in either getting COVID or spreading it. Since the pandemic hit Canada, kids under 19 represent 7% of all documented COVID cases, but only 1% of hospitalizations, and there have been no deaths under age 19. Within a school, we know that kids will not be able to be perfectly physically distanced. Physical distancing will be encouraged and reinforced, but the most important factor appears to be not so much spacing as preventing physical contact between children. It is most important for the children's health for kids to stay active and to stay actively learning. We're watching closely the experience of other jurisdictions around their return to school direction and hope to learn from their successes and their challenges. For parents of new kindergarten children, there will be so much that is new for you come August. If you have not already gotten one, a letter from Whitehorse Health Centre will come to set up an appointment for your new student's pre-K health check, including immunizations. In rural Yukon, community health centres will be managing this. This is just as important a protection for your children as everything else we will be doing within school facilities to keep our children safe. That's all for my part in today's update, apart from answering questions. Thank you. Merci, Cho.
Thank you. We'll now go to the phone lines. We'll start with Tim, CKRW.
Hello, good afternoon. My first question is for Minister McPhee. Can you talk about where we're at in the plan development for how the school year will look like, as Dr. Hanley kind of alluded to, and how much consultation has been done and will go into that plan?
Thanks, Tim, for the question. Dr. Hanley's office and team have issued initial guidance, which we are using at the Department of Education and at each school to determine the initial concerns and how we will address them when the school year opens. We expect further, more detailed guidelines that will come from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and those will be taken to the local level, and where principals and teachers and staff will work on an operational plan unique to each school. You can imagine, for instance, that an operational plan for students or a school perhaps in Kluane would be different than it will be in downtown Whitehorse for either an elementary school or for a high school. So those need to be individual to the schools. They will be worked on in consultation with the principals, who will be chiefly responsible for an operational plan for their school, along with their staff, along with their teachers, along with their school council. And there is consultation as well with the community, greater community members through our partners in education. Yukon First Nations and communities across the territory will be involved, and the opportunity to do that is between now and the beginning of the school year.
Thank you. A follow-up, Tim?
Yes, second question for Dr. Hanley. I'm sure you're aware that the Haynes had experienced their first case this week. Have you had any contact with, have Alaska officials contacted you in potential of, contact tracing? Did that person perhaps come through Yukon? Have you heard anything along those lines?
No, having heard nothing in direct conversation, we're assuming that there was no contact within Yukon. I do have a conversation booked with my counterpart in Alaska, more on the broader issues. When there are implications for our own public health, then we expect to hear directly. Having not heard and having not had details of that individual case, then we can assume that there are no public health implications for Yukon.
Thank you. We'll move to Chris, CBC.
Thank you. Question, so for the minister, earlier there was a version of the school calendar circulating that had every second Wednesday ending early, I believe 1:45 in the afternoon. Is that still happening?
I don't know exactly which reference you're making to school calendars. School calendars are done by the end of March every year, and there are some small adjustments that take place in relation to school councils and their ability to choose certain PD days, for instance, professional development days for their staff and that sort of thing. There are some schools that have adjusted hours, so they do end on one particular day for staff and other professional development, but I'm not sure about every second Wednesday or what the reference you're making is. But for the most part, school calendars are set in consultation with the parents and plans going forward. As you know, we've you probably know, we've committed to having 4 years of school calendars available for families to be able to plan going forward, and we've kept up with that. So there are school calendars going well into the next 4 years. But with respect to your specific question, I'm not sure which version you're referring to. So they can be adjusted at the school level with respect to meeting the same amount of hours of instruction for students.
Follow-up question, Chris?
Okay, if I could get your answer to put on your Justice Minister hat, you're obviously aware of the protests that have been going on all over the world over the last few weeks. What's your response to demonstrators who are calling for changes to policing, including the defunding of police and using that money for other social services?
I think I'd happy to answer this, Chris. Thanks for the question. Yukon, like in many other in this case, like in many other cases, happens to be a leader. We, of course, recognize that racism is a real and recognized issue here in our territory, and we must all act in meaningful ways to address these issues. Like all complex issues and problems, there must be many solutions, and there's no one answer to any particular crisis. Our job is to listen and to learn from the comments and the voices that are being raised in relation to this issue and police issues with respect to racism in our communities. The actions we must take must be focused on reconciliation. We have taken a number of actions already in the Yukon Territory, and I'm pleased that some of these actions will, based on community participation and responding to community concerns, will in fact be addressed at answering some of these issues. But of course, we must continue to listen and learn going forward. We have a unique situation, for instance, here in the Territory with the Yukon Police Council that visits communities, takes feedback from community members, and helps set policing priorities. We have programs that involve community safety officers and community safety processes. We have mental wellness hubs. We have the sexual assault response team. We have that involves police participation, of course, as well as many other opportunities to provide wraparound services for victims of this horrible crime. That involves education for police about trauma-informed response techniques. We have community policing focus. We have a strategy being developed in response to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and we are leading the country with respect to that response. We have funded a historical cases unit to deal with unsolved homicide and missing person cases. So these are a number of things that have been done already. We must continue to support our community, to listen to the voices, and to move forward in a way that allows us to provide for the health and safety of Yukoners.
Thank you. We'll move now to Claudienne, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Pour le docteur Hanley, juste de me dire en français, donc, quels sont les facteurs qui justifient un retour en classe dès le mois d'août?
For Dr. Hanley, can you please repeat in French what factors you took into consideration to call for a return to school in the fall time?
Oui, merci pour ça. J'ai parlé tout à l'heure de la balance de risques et des considérations pour la santé en général des enfants. Donc, les considérations incluent la santé mentale des enfants, d'être privés d'avoir des réunions en face avec les enseignants et le collègue et les appuis les autres appuis qui sont disponibles dans l'école. aussi pour les besoins des parents, avec le retour de tous les mesures d'ouverture au Yukon, les parents ont besoin de routine et besoin des soins pour les enfants pour rattraper le travail ou leurs apprentissages ou leurs activités. Et aussi pour reconnaître qu'il y a le meilleur état pour l'apprentissage pour les enfants, c'est donné pour la chance d'avoir les réunions actuelles visuelles avec l'enseignant. Et tout ça, c'est en balance contre les risques de COVID qui sont déjà là, toujours là. On vit avec un risque de COVID dans ces jours-là, mais le risque est suffisamment bas et on prévoit que ça va probablement continuer d'être suffisamment bas pour nous d'avoir les enfants dans les écoles. Aussi, on a beaucoup parlé de risque de transmission de COVID entre les enfants qui en fait est bas. La maladie de COVID, c'est très peu sévère et donc c'est bien toléré par les enfants. Et la risque de transmission, selon l'expérience au Canada, c'est plus dans la maison que dans les établissements comme les écoles.
Prochaine question, Claudiane.
Oui, donc savoir si advenant une nouvelle vague de contamination, combien de temps est-ce qu'il serait possible de donner aux parents, aux enseignants, si le retour en classe ne se fait pas? Donc, quel délai est-ce que le personnel et les parents auront pour pouvoir se retourner, là?
So, in case there would be a second wave of COVID, how much time will parents and students and their teachers have before the other measures are taken? How much time will they be given to make new plans?
Ça sera une partie de le planning pendant l'été parce qu'on a les cibles en général pour avoir tous les enfants à l'école et on a les plans en général, mais on a beaucoup de détails pour mettre en place, incluant les mesures. Les mesures en cas de. Donc, et ça sera plus de planning en cas de une monte de risque d'importation, par exemple. S'il y a une deuxième vague au Canada, et même si c'est pas ici, qu'est-ce que sont les risques d'importation et est-ce que ça va toucher ou est-ce que ça va poser un risque pour les étudiants dans les écoles? J'imagine qu'on va prendre quelques semaines pour faire des décisions comme ça, parce que on sait que on serait en général bien préparé pour les cas et même des éclosions. C'est que s'il y a assez de risques ou de menaces de COVID de circuler dans la communauté qui va poser assez de risques pour changer les routines pour les enfants. Donc, on prévoit, à mon avis, quelques semaines pour faire des changements, mais tout ça avec plus de planning pendant l'été. Would you like me to?
If you could
Sure, I
tell
would be
families
happy.
If you'd
on
repeat the answer in English, please, Dr. Hanley.
or some version thereof.
So I was saying a lot of this is really the details. So what we have today is the general plan and the general the general framework for how we're going to get to have kids in schools face to face as of August. But there's lots of planning, and that will be again, as the minister said, specific for schools, operational plans. How are you going to achieve the spacing and the right measures to be to be in place to protect against the risk for COVID circulation. So the question is how much time would we need? Let's say the risk changes. So that's part of the detailed planning that we'll be doing over the summer is what are the indicators, and then what would be the corresponding measure that would modify the plans for returning in school. And a lot of that would be based maybe not so much on cases here or even outbreaks here, but on what are we perceiving as the risk based on importation risk from other places in Canada should we see a second wave or significant resurgence of COVID activity in the South. So I said in the end, more to come as we plan details over the summer.
Thank you. We'll move now to Jane, CBC.
Hi, my question is for Minister McPhee. And one thing that both you and Dr. Hanley mentioned was the possibility of smaller class sizes in this next school year. So does that mean the possibility of hiring more teachers if they're smaller classes? Does that mean more classes, or could there be a possibility of split shifting, like, some students go in the morning and some students in the afternoon?
Thanks for your question, Jane. I think not necessarily hiring more teachers. We're working with the partners in education, of course, the Yukon Teachers Association, with the principals and teachers to figure out how the operational plans look for each individual school. Clearly, in some schools where there's less students, that won't necessarily be an issue. But with respect to how to operationalize that in larger schools, there could be smaller class sizes, depending on ultimately the guidance and guidelines from the Chief Medical Officer of Health. Of course, we've mentioned that we're learning from other jurisdictions and what is working and what is challenging them. There will be an opportunity for this to be dealt with really at each individual school and what their advice is going to be and how they're going to meet the needs of their students going forward. I think all of the suggestions you've made are a possibility, but we hope to return classes to as normal. Although everyone's careful about using that word, as normal a situation as possible, knowing that we have challenges, knowing that we have health and safety issues that need to be addressed in schools.
Follow-up question, Jane?
And if there is a second wave, what have you learned about this time of doing the distance learning with students? What have you learned from this period that you might change next time, or I guess what worked and what hasn't in this this period if we had to go back to this?
Yeah, thanks again. That's a great question. This is a truly great opportunity to find out exactly how this has been working for students and families and for teachers and other professionals. We will be surveying families over the next little while and students particularly. The plan will be to get their feedback, to find out what worked and what didn't work. We know that there have been opportunities for online learning and other tools to integrate into our learning processes for years. Some teachers have embraced those. Some schools have embraced those. Others have gone with more traditional methods. But I think we now have information from individuals that work in the system, that are professional teachers, professionally responsible for the learning of children. that have really taken into account more practices as a result of this opportunity and as a result of what worked and what didn't. We'll be asking folks, we'll be asking families and professionals to find out exactly what parts of this situation should move forward, what parts we should keep. And I think this is not only in the education field, of course, we've talked about it in many, many situations, businesses, our society in general. What have we learned, and what parts of our response to this pandemic going forward need to be retained and need to be blossomed into better opportunities going forward, and what parts didn't work. And those are really great questions.
Thank you. We'll move now to Gord, Yukon News.
Yes, we've heard rumblings of school buses only taking kids from school to home and not being able to drop off at daycares or stuff like that once school starts again. Are you able to shed some light on if that would be true?
Thanks for that question. I actually heard about this on the way into this room to this afternoon. So we're looking into the details of that. It seems to me, I've heard actually a story that's different than the one that you've just presented, but the plan is for school bus registration. We're encouraging people to continue with school bus registration before June 19th. The plan is for school buses. I certainly haven't been provided with any information about changes to the operations, and we've been working closely with the school bus provider and the service provider, not only in the last number of months where they've continued to help in communities, prevent, delivering schoolwork and those kinds of things, but going forward, we will have to adjust school bus riding for students based on the number of students that can be together, and that'll be an important piece of work that we do over the summer, but the registration is key to that. So we're looking into, I think you said rumblings or rumors. Can't confirm them at the moment, but we'll certainly looking into the issue.
Follow-up question, Gord?
So I'm curious, when you say there'll be consultations with school staff, I'm curious what do you mean by staff?
Well, administrators, principals, and vice principals are ultimately responsible for their school operational plan. They'll be working with their staff, the people who work at the school, and their teachers and teaching professionals, as well as their educational assistants and learning assistants, language teachers, and those that provide other services to kids in school, the entire staff of a school.
Thank you. We'll move to Gabrielle, Whitehorse Star.
Hi. For families with children who are immunocompromised or might be higher risk, who might be worried about returning to school in the fall, will there be some flexibility for those students? And if they choose not to come to school, does that mean teachers might need to be prepared with distance learning plans to correspond with classroom lessons?
Thank you. That's also a great question that I know families are concerned about. The health and safety of the students and the staff, of course, is our top priority. Yukon schools will be following the guidance and the guidelines that will be produced by the Chief Medical Officer of Health, of course, but we recognize that some parents and guardians and students may have reservations for whatever reason, including the health and safety of their students to return to school. We encourage parents and families to contact their school to discuss, before school starts, to discuss any of these particular cases regarding the measures that will be taken at their school to deal with students who are vulnerable. Students who are not interested or not able, for whatever reason, to return to school will continue to be provided their coursework from their teacher to complete their courses, and our intention is to provide full and complete school year for all students in the 2021 school year.
Follow-up question, Gabrielle?
For Dr. Hanley, has Yukon University received similar instructions or guidance about opening classrooms in the fall, and is that something that's going to happen as well, do you think?
I will let Yukon University speak for itself in that regard. So, but we have been working with them on public health guidance. I've had conversations with the president and with the board, and on an operational level, we're having also some discussions. So certainly we've been giving them the support that they need to help them make their decisions.
Thank you. Julien, Aurore Boréal.
Oui, pas de questions, merci.
Merci, Julien. Okay, that is the end of our COVID-19 update for today. Thank you, Minister McPhee. Thank you, Dr. Hanley. The next COVID-19 update will take place on Friday, June 12th at 2 p.m.